Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It's Saturday. I hope the weekend is going well wherever you are watching or listening to this around the world. 6 days away now from the start of the Euros. Not a good goodbye from England yesterday at Wembley. We will talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Of course, got plenty of questions and comments from you guys. We'll look at what Jorrel Hato, an Arsenal target, has been saying about his future. Really interesting piece from James Gunnerblog, obviously over the Athletic yesterday with Granit Xhaka talking about Carlos Cuesta, who is certainly a young coach at Arsenal who has been catching the eye. Really good piece. I retweeted it yesterday. If you haven't seen it, you should go and check it out. You'll find it on my timeline. It's on James Gunnerblog's timeline as well. You can read it. There's a link to it down in the description below. We'll have a little bit of a look at what Granit Xhaka had to say about Carlos as well. But I wanted to start on the discussion. There you go. If you're watching on screen, you can see it. Arsenal's player of the season has been named, and it is Martin Odegaard for the second successive year, which means for the last 4 years, there's only been 2 Arsenal player of the seasons because Bukayo Saka won it twice in a row, and now Martin Odegaard has won it twice in a row. He got 33% of the votes. Declan Rice got 24%, and William Saliba was third with 20%. So Bukayo Saka didn't even make it into the top 3. I'm surprised. I have to that. Well, I say I'm surprised. I've said it before in previous videos when I was talking to James Bench. We did our player of the season, things like that. I gave mine to Declan Rice, but I did say at the time it was almost a flip of the coin. And towards the end of the season, I very nearly changed my mind because of how well Odegaard had been playing. I did think Rice would get it though. I have to say, even though I did think it was very, very close. I'm surprised that Odegaard won it by quite a long way as well, 33% to 24%. But I think what this tells us as well, when you look at these votes, and the fact that Bukayo Saka, who had such a good season, especially when you look at his numbers and what he produced, and wasn't even in the top 3. And I think Gabriel was very, very close to William Saliba as well. It shows how many good quality players Arsenal have and how many of them have been playing very, very well. And Ben White's not even been in the conversation, and Ben White's been fantastic for Arsenal this season, especially during the second half of the season as well. But you look at mine, Odegaard. I mean, he's an absolute bargain. What was it? 35 million Arsenal paid Real Madrid for Martin Odegaard. He's won player of the season twice in a row, spearheading Arsenal's sort of resurgence to being a top team in both England and in Europe. You get very few transfer bargains nowadays in football, but in Martin Odegaard, you can genuinely look at that piece of business Arsenal did with Real Madrid and think, what an absolute bargain. It's tough when you're at Real Madrid, it's tough to criticise Real Madrid, and you look at what they've done since Odegaard's gone and what they've won. I mean, the Champions League winners yet again, they're La Liga winners yet again this season. But I do wonder if they look at that and think, what, how have we managed to give him away so cheap? Not so much why did we give him away, because sometimes you've got to make tough decisions when you're a football club. And if you look, Odegaard wasn't getting near the team really when he was at Madrid for whatever reason. But I wonder if they look at that and think, yeah, we've certainly sold him on the cheap. We made a bit of an error there in terms of how much we gave, because it was very clear from when he came on loan, it was very clear that Arsenal had a very special talent on their hands in Martin Odegaard, the way he took to the team in that during that loan spell, some of the performances he put in. You think back to that 3-3 draw against West Ham when he single-handedly picked Arsenal up off the floor from 3-0 down and drove them back to get a point in that game. And that was all while he was on loan. And you could tell it was a very special player, and Arsenal wanted him. They really wanted to bring him back. There was lots of, they were in the discussion from Manuel Buendia at that time as well that summer, but they always wanted to wait for Odegaard to see what Real Madrid's decision was going to be, whether they would let him go on a permanent basis. They were determined to get him. They waited, they were patient, they got him, and look at what he's turned into. Just a genuine superstar, a leader, a captain, inspiration, and a wonderful, wonderful attacking midfielder. And so, player of the season, yet again, congratulations to him. Congratulations to Declan Rice as well. What a first season for Arsenal. Just missing out on the award from the fans, but still second place. And yeah, produced some really wonderful moments for Arsenal. Let me know your thoughts on the player of the season stand-ins. Do you agree with it? Was Odegaard your pick, or would you have given it to someone else? And what do you think of the signing overall? What has it been a better piece of transfer business for Arsenal in recent times than Martin Odegaard for that amount of money? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, moving on. Good night for Kai Havertz yesterday. Scores again, as the song goes, for Germany, winning 2-1 against Greece. 1-0 down, actually, before Kai Havertz scored equalised. A really nice goal. Got the ball in from the right-hand side. Took a touch, spun, and drilled it in with his left foot. And Germany went on and got a late winner in that game as well to win 2-1. I think it's 25 goal contributions for club and country now for Kai Havertz this season. 18 goals, 7 assists, I think it is. Or 17 goals, 8 assists. Yeah, just brilliant. When you think of how it started and how difficult it was for him those first couple of months, and then you look at how he's ended the season, both with Arsenal and with Germany as well. You know, he's got the Euros to come, where who knows, he could be a star who leads Germany to winning the tournament in their own backyard. It's been a fantastic season for Kai Havertz, who's turned things around spectacularly, really. And yeah, great to see him scoring again. Really good day for him. He'll be with Germany. Obviously, I think it's 11 Arsenal players now confirmed going to the Euros. Kieran Tierney's been called up officially for Scotland. We knew that was going to happen. Jorginho, Jakub Kiwior. I think it's 11 altogether in the tournament, which starts next Friday with the Arsenal derby. Germany versus Scotland. Kai Havertz versus Kieran Tierney. Not a good day for England, on good night, shall I say, for England. 2 Arsenal players starting in their game against Iceland. Aaron Ramsdale, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka. Good to see him back. He got 25 minutes at the end coming back from his injury layoff. 25 valuable minutes for him going into the tournament, but he's undercooked. You know, he hasn't played much recently. Bukayo Saka, will he start in that first game? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. A lot of the England players at the moment just looking a little bit unfit. Certainly not in top form. Harry Kane's been out for 3 games. We've got a question here from Tom. He says, hi Charles, what's your opinion on the England squad going to the Euros and the players dropped? I was surprised Grealish was dropped. I'm surprised because of his name. And, you know, he's experienced in top level games, Champions League going all the way, all that sort of stuff. So I was surprised. If you want someone on the bench in a difficult situation you could turn to, I think Jack Grealish was, you know, I thought he'd probably go, but he's not been great for Man City. He's not played much for Man City. So I'm not overly surprised in that. And I like the fact that he's taken Eze as well, who I just think is a fantastic footballer. But I just think my opinion on England squad, it just looks a little bit undercooked. You've got Luke Shaw desperately trying to come back to play as a left back, hasn't played in a long, long time, won't start the first couple of games, you would think at least. And so they look short on the left-hand side. They're going to have cover for Luke Shaw, someone playing out of position. Bukayo Saka's not played much. Harry Kane's not played much. They all just feel a little bit short to me. You know, I think they're great chance. If everyone's on it and playing well, England have got a great chance of winning the Euros. But I'm not sure because of how the squad just looks a little bit decimated by injuries and lack of fitness. And I thought there's been a bit of criticism for Aaron Ramsdale for the goal yesterday, for Iceland's goal. It was one of those ones I think it's very hard for a goalkeeper. It goes through the defender's legs. Yes, there's always that sort of cliche, which I hate and I never agree with. I've spoken about this before, the whole keeper should never get beaten at the near post. I just think that's rubbish. It's just not true. It's just absolutely not true. I remember the goal, I think I spoke about it when Sane scored that brilliant goal for Bayern against Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final, and they're all saying that Lunin shouldn't have been beaten his near post, but it's just there's no way he was going to save that. And I just thought for Ramsdale as well, that was very, very hard. The fact it went through the defender's legs, he couldn't react until that had happened, and then it was just, you know, it was a really well struck shot into the corner. It was hard for Ramsdale to save, but being a goalkeeper, he knows he's going to come in for criticism when he does get beaten at his near post. Rice was okay, but England were just very slow and pedestrian, weren't they? Once they went behind, they never really looked like they had a clue how to break Iceland down, and that is worrying. So yeah, not a great day for England, but good to see Bukayo Saka back, and hopefully when the tournament does kick off for England next Sunday, they play an awful lot better than they did last night. So that's my opinion on the England squad, Tom. I think it's absolutely stacked with quality, good enough to win the tournament, but I just do worry that some of the players and key players just don't look match fit at the moment. Okay, moving on to Jorrel Hato has been speaking. Didn't get to speak about this in yesterday's show because it was a pre-recorded show I did with Team News and Ticks. If you haven't seen that yet, you can find it down in the videos or in the podcast selection. But Jorrel Hato is a player we know Arsenal like and have been looking at and have been in discussions with. Really, Ajax are well aware of Arsenal's interest. Jorrel Hato is well aware of Arsenal's interest as well. He has signed that new contract recently with Ajax, and he has now said in a interview he's done, he said, I'll just play for Ajax next season. I haven't finished learning here yet, and I want to win prizes with Ajax. That was my dream when I came here. So it appears his heart at the moment, after signing that new contract, is to stay at least for one more year at Ajax. I don't think that'll be a major concern to Arsenal. I think that interest will remain with on their interest will remain on with Hato, and they'll just keep a sort of watching glance, see how he gets on this season for Ajax, where he's going to play. He's going to continue to grow. I think, when you're an 18-year-old kid like he is, it's probably, from a footballing point of view, it's a good decision to stay at Ajax, where you're going to play every single game next season. You're going to continue to grow, continue to develop, and you're not going to not get a move because of it. You're definitely, big clubs who are watching you, like Arsenal, will continue to watch you, see how you get on, and you're still going to get a big move in 1 or 2 years down the line. It's kind of how I feel with Benjamin Sesko as well. Obviously, I want Arsenal to sign Benjamin Sesko this summer. I hope he decides to give a green light to a move, and he doesn't decide to stay at Leipzig and sign that new contract. But as I've spoken about before, I do feel like, from a footballing point of view, if he decides to stay, I don't think you can really complain at that decision. Just like Hato here, sometimes for young players at that age, it's just best to stay where you are and continue to develop, because you're going to have a season of playing regularly, being the main man in a team, and you're still going to get your big move a year or two down the line, barring obviously any injury setback. So, like I said, fair play to Hato, and we still wait to see what Benjamin Sesko's decision is going to be. Okay, moving on quickly. I flagged it to start the show just on Gunner blog, James McNicholas, obviously. Fantastic piece he's done on over the Athletic on Carlos Cuesta and the rise and why he's so highly rated as Arsenal's young coach. Granit Xhaka was speaking to James as part of that piece, and he said some interesting stuff. Like I said, the description to the piece is down below. You should give it definitely go and give it a read. It's on my social media. It's on James's, of course, as well. And he was talking about Carlos, and he says one day Carlos Cuesta will be a manager for a big club. I say this because he knows what he wants. He has clear ideas. I'm certain that one day he'll be a touchline as a manager. Now, he's already been linked with Norwich, for example. Still, I think he's 28, Carlos Cuesta, something like that. Ridiculous. Like 12 years younger than me, 14 years younger than me, even. And he's one of the top coaches at Arsenal. Really interesting backstory to Cuesta. Never, a top flight professional player or anything like that, but he's just got the knack. He's got something special, and coaches have seen that. Arteta's seen that. He's already worked for Juventus, Arsenal, Atletico Madrid. He arrived at Arsenal at, I can't remember how old he was. Really, really young when he arrived at Arsenal, but he already had Juventus and AC and Atletico Madrid on his resume. Granit was talking about him. He said, look, the relationship between Carlos and me was very, very special. I think how we were thinking as people was exactly the same. The honesty we showed each other and other people was always the same. He helped me a lot. We had so many individual meetings, video sessions, conversations. These things helped me bring where I am today. Carlos Cuesta is really, really good at that. You speak to people about those sort of one-on-one meetings. We saw it a little bit in the All or Nothing documentary, didn't I? I think he was with Lacazette, I think, in one of the scenes, in one of their sort of video one-on-one meetings that they did with each other. And he's very well liked because of that. The players, they respect him despite his young age. And when he talks a lot of sense. It's a really great piece. So I do advise you go and read that. Like I said, you can find it in the description below. In the video, but also on my social media as well. Really, really interesting figure, Carlos Cuesta, in part of Arteta's coaching staff. Okay, moving on to a few questions or comments before we wrap this up. Elzonia Van Week says, is Trossard going to be a regular next season with the season he's just had? I mean, it's hard for me to answer that out and out. Only Mikel Arteta can answer that out and out. A lot of it depends if Arsenal sign another player. A lot of it depends on how Gabriel Martinelli, who we do have a question about or a comment about late in a couple of slides' time, depends how he plays in pre-season. I think basically it's just whoever plays better, isn't it? If you play well, if you're showing your form, you're going to be in your team. Towards the end of last season, Martinelli wasn't playing well. He looked short of confidence. Trossard stepped in, scored big goals at big moments. And he was one of the first names on the team sheet. And that's how it has to be at a club like Arsenal. It's all about competition and about someone standing up, grabbing that shirt, staking a claim for it, and then holding on to it by doing stuff on the pitch. If you do that, you stay in the team. And Trossard, the way he played at the end of last season, you have to say he's probably number one when it comes to the left-hand side in Arsenal's attack right now. But he's got to come back after his holiday, come back after the Euros. Just as Martinelli's got to come back after the Copa America. Both of them will go head-to-head again to try and be in that starting 11 at the start of the season. And we do have that sort of thing called the transfer window hanging over us as well, where a new left-sided player could potentially come in. We'll have to wait and see. Nasai says, if Partey goes, then for me it has to be João Neves without a doubt. Also, I agree that Osimhen is not the answer at all, especially for the price being quoted. Ideally, I'd want Sesko, Neves, Hato, and a winger, Neto or Nico Williams. If we don't get Sesko, then I'd rather we spend the money on Leao rather than Osimhen. I spoke about that yesterday, didn't I? That if Arsenal don't get Sesko, I don't necessarily think that means they will definitely go out and buy another number 9. I don't think they'll panic in that regard. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying it will happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if they just moved away from the idea of signing a number 9, were stuck with Havertz and Jesus, and went out and spent quite big money on getting another sort of wide attacker who would score goals. I mean, Leao, you're talking probably the same amount of money as Osimhen to get him out of AC Milan. So I'm not convinced it would be him. But I do like the idea of potentially sort of transitioning the thoughts from a striker to a wide-sided attacking goal scorer if Sesko, who is clearly the number one priority at the moment, decides to stay at Leipzig. On João Neves, look, he's a huge talent. I really like Neves from what I've seen of him. I haven't seen loads, but what I have seen of him just looks like, when you see a player and you just think, yeah, you've got it. You've got everything. And he does look like he has everything, but he's so young. And to come into Arsenal as an 18-year-old, I'm not saying it can't happen, but to be a sort of starter in that midfield and really take the team onto a next level, you've got to be a hell of a player to be able to do that at that age. Maybe he is that player. Maybe he could handle the step up. But it'll be interesting. But I do think he's a hell of a talent. João Neves, really exciting player. And as I said, here's one from Kumar. He says, Martinelli coming back to form will be like a new signing in itself. I hope he gets his form back. Trossard, Martinelli, Havertz, Saka and Odegaard should contribute about 75 goals next season. Yeah, I mean, Martinelli, so many people have written him off on the back of one, not even bad season, just a bit of a dip in terms of his performances last season, what he produced the year before. He's such a huge talent, still so young, utterly convinced he'll come back after the summer. Wouldn't surprise me, has a really good tournament with Brazil, could make his mark over there in the Copa America, comes back, looks completely reborn, full of confidence, and goes again next season. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And, there's far too much criticism of Martinelli over what he produced last season. Yes, he didn't live up to the standards he set the previous year, but that was very hard. And the left-hand side at Arsenal was a bit of a mess yet last season. There were so many players playing. Granit had gone, who had that really good relationship with Gabriel Martinelli the season before. Then you had about 4 or 5 different left-backs playing all the time. Really hard for Martinelli. He's completely different to the right-hand side, which was so solid and you knew who was going to play week in, week out. So I think Martinelli, despite he definitely had a dip in form, his confidence clearly went. He was missing chances he usually would have taken. But I do think there were mitigating circumstances to some of the performances he produced. And like you, I think he'll come back next season and he'll go again and he'll show the sort of Martinelli that we saw in 2022-23 rather than 2023-24. And that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate your time as always. I'll be back tomorrow for the Sunday Roundup show. Anything you want me to discuss in that show, let me know in the comments below. Questions, opinions, comments, all those sort of things. I'll pull some of them together and get them included in the show. Until then, have a very good Saturday, everyone. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.